another reason law enforcement officers sometimes become bitter is because after you've seen, like, you think you've seen it all, and then you see more, like, working in the prisons, like in the jails, you see the scum of the earth. Let me tell you this story, Doug. This lady comes in, and I look at her charge, and it's oral copulation, minor under the age of 10. And I'm like, this little short fat lady made a little girl give her a head? What the fuck is this? But I'm like, no, something here is not adding up. So I go over to the detective. I was like, yo, tell me the story. So the detective tells me, and it's hard for me to tell this story because I'm not chuckling because the story is funny. I'm chuckling because this was the first time in my life I've been provoked to hit a woman. This lady was making her 9-year-old daughter give her boyfriend, who's not the girl's father, which wouldn't have made a difference anyway, but it's worse, oral sex outside at a festival in front of other people, and she's been letting this man have sex with her. It was either 8 or 9-year-old daughter. And this was the first time I ever thought to myself, I'm gonna beat the brakes off of this woman. Yeah. Like, I never in my life have been provoked to put hands on a woman until that day. And then I told my coworkers, like, y'all deal with her. I can't deal with this lady. I don't want to, because if she says anything to me, I don't know how I react. I don't think I'd snap because I am in control of myself, but I was so mad because when I think of a 9-year-old girl, it's like, you're her mother. She comes to you for protection. You do this to her. So I've seen a lot of crazy. Just a couple of days ago, somebody came in. He was arrested. He had what's called a Ramey warrant in California. And the Ramey warrant means they have so much evidence on you, you might as well not have a lawyer. Because motherfucker, they wouldn't issue a Ramey warrant unless they knew that you gone. Conspiracy to rape a child under the age of 14. Raping child under the age of 14. Oral copulation of a child under the age of 14. And possession of child pornography. I was like, oh, and they about to, like, when you go to the state, you are done for.
And that's why I tell people that, like, when you're in these fields, the reason why they're on edge and stuff is because they deal with the scum of the earth. Right. The worst of the worst. How bad you think a person can be, we've seen it 10 times over. Wait. So, like, when you say, like, oh, they need to have more empathy and things, they're being very empathetic for the things they have seen. And that's why a lot of times when they respond to certain calls, they might not view it as serious because they might have just came from a call that was way worse than that. But I've become that person to where a lot of people call me like a law enforcement defender, but I just call myself somebody with common sense who also experienced it. But I was like, I tell people, I was like, go on a ride along, go talk. I was like, go actually talk to these officers, ask them what they see on a daily, and then you gonna be like, that happens. You're like, yeah, that was just a regular Tuesday. Yeah, like. You don't see what they see on a daily to see why they act the way they do. And they're like, oh, well, that's the job they signed up for. I was like, well, if they didn't sign up for it, who would? If we didn't have these type of people that were selfless enough to sign up for this job, whether you want to say they power hungry or whatever, if we didn't have these people, you not know how lawless this country would be. If we didn't have law enforcement and the people stopping the scum of the earth from continue doing what they're doing, and don't get me wrong, they're not going to catch everybody, but if we didn't have them stopping a good majority of them, a lot of this country would be lawless. Yeah. You would be begging to have the system that we have now back.
And a lot of people don't understand when they say, like, this is the job you signed up for. Man, you think you're gonna be stopping people like Batman stop robbers and things like that. You don't expect to hear the stories of a man raping his daughter or like this and that. I remember one time this inmate, he was old. Elevators weren't working this day. He was like 65 or 70. So he had to take the stairs upstairs to a single cell. And I remember this one other guy asked me, like, man, he was talking shit to me. He was like, what could that man have done so bad that you guys are making him go into a single cell, man? That's you guys just abusing your power. This 65 or 70-year-old man was in charge of taking care of his granddaughter, who was 3, and he was like fingering her while she was in bed. And I didn't tell him that, but I remember thinking to myself, like, man, if only y'all knew. Like, if you guys,
that's what I'm saying. Public perception. They think they know everything about the situation. They're like, I remember I seen something on a line on TikTok not long ago where these cops were surrounding this guy and they had him at gunpoint, and his woman's recording like, "Sir, you're okay. Like, everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be good." And he's like, "Yeah, record this. They arrested me for nothing," not knowing that he just murdered 3 people before this interaction. So I was like, the public, everybody wants that biggest hit, that biggest viral moment. They think they know everything. They think what they're seeing right now is the start and the conclusion of what happened, not knowing what happened prior to that.
Right.
So I was just like, that's why I always tell people when like a police shooting or something happens, I don't have an opinion on it until I see all the facts. Until I get, and then they called me a bad guy when I say that. Like, oh, what do you need to see? We saw it right there. I was like, no, you didn't see what happened prior. That's why they have court for this, because there's a lot of things that led up to this that we are not privy to.
Yeah.
We didn't see what he or she or they did before leading to this interaction. And then I bet you when you find out that the person that they killed or shot or whatever was in the wrong, you're not going to come back and be like, oh, I apologize for my outburst kind of thing. You're going to just be like, oh, well, or you're probably not going to say anything. You're probably just going to sweep it under the rug. And like, you never see these activists that you see on social media. They're very quick to jump on law enforcement when they perceive them to do something wrong. But when it comes out that the cop was actually in the right, they just, okay, and then move on to the next.